Hello, we're Natalie and Abby, and you are listening to The Sensational Life with Bibic.
Join us to explore the many layers of life through unique and inspiring topics each week. Whether you're looking to better support yourself or others, we're here to provide insights, practical tips, and meaningful conversations.
Bibic is a national charity dedicated to empowering children and young adults with brain injuries, disabilities, and neurological or developmental challenges. We're both part of a fantastic team of developmental therapists. While our title might sound a bit fancy, it really just means that we're here to support children, young adults, and families with helpful strategies for any challenges that they encounter.
There may be times we cover some difficult topics during this podcast, but we will always give you prior warning of this. We'll have some wonderful guest speakers joining us, and we can't wait to hear from you with all your questions and your own stories. Together, we can create a more inclusive and understanding world, one episode at a time.
Hello, welcome back to The Sensational Life with Bibic. We just want to start out by saying thank you so much for all the lovely feedback and comments you've been giving us on Spotify and all of the emails that we've been getting in. It's really lovely to hear from you. And we do really appreciate it when you leave us a comment, and we do try and reply to each one. So thank you very much to all of our listeners.
I was just going to say, I keep making jokes about the fact that my voice is in people's homes.
Yes. Yes, my little one was very excited when he realised that Mummy was on Spotify. So
I think a lady from our fundraising team said she was in our house the other day and she could hear my voice and couldn't work out why, and her husband was in the kitchen listening.
So yeah, a really heartfelt thank you to everyone that has left us a review. Today, I think we're going to start off with some of the questions that we've had sent in.
So one question we've had is, can executive functioning difficulties impact/cause anxiety? So I think this is quite a fundamental thing, isn't it? Because especially with some of the stuff we've already spoke about in terms of organisation, that fight, flight, freeze, fall, and emotional control. I feel like if you don't have the ability to predict and work out what's going to come, it can make you quite anxious.
Absolutely.
Because it's sort of hard to try and work out what you're going to do, how you're going to do it. And again, I think it goes hand in hand with sort of the demand avoidance side of things, because it's far easier to say no and then not have to do it than try and actually work out what you've got to do.
Yeah, and break it down into those small steps. I mean, like we said previously, that whole kind of fight, flight, freeze, fawn element of it, when your executive function goes offline, one of those emotions could be that anxiety feeling, and you just don't really know what to do with it. So that's when you get the flight, I'm going to have to leave. Or you see it quite a lot actually with the fawn, where they pretend everything is fine. And but actually inside they're really quite anxious because they can't think about how long they're going to be out for, what they're going to do, or who they're going to see.
And I think a lot recently, I've been fortunate enough to do some assessments with some older ones as well, so some sort of young adults and older teenagers. And I think when we talk about anxiety, I've been talking it from a fear basis, because I've tried to be helping them rationalize anxiety, because I think anxiety can be all-encompassing. It can be everything, and your brain sort of takes control. So we've been talking about in terms of the way that the brain is producing adrenaline, which is causing a fear response, and trying to be quite logical with how we're discussing anxiety, because I feel like when you start to get anxious and worry, the more and more you think about it and sort of fuel it as such, especially sort of if you can't work out how to do something, or again, sort of college sort of deadlines and sort of briefs and things like that, they can be quite extensive in terms of what they're providing you in terms of information, and trying to pull out from that your starting point can be really challenging. So yeah, we've been talking about it from that perspective as well.
That's a really good point to kind of build on as well, because I've had someone who's just kind of going into work, and they've started their new job, and then they've become quite anxious about it because they've been given some training and things like that, but that whole going out kind of on your own to do something is very different to having someone next to you being able to break it down. I think that's where a lot of the anxieties can come from, because they can do it providing there are strategies in place to support them, but it can give you that initial, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? Like, my safety net has gone.
And I think I try to give some personal experience, because I think it's also good to be a little bit sort of more personal with things like this. So definitely from the aspect of dyslexia and having executive functioning, that's definitely something I've noticed over the years, that actually trying to do a task that you have no idea how to do can also be a little bit sort of, where do I start and what do I do with it? So actually, this is probably quite a good point regarding our episode this week, because we
Oh
are
yeah,
talking
yeah,
all that
absolutely.
task initiation, which can actually be a factor to causing anxiety. Because I think the other question we've got here was, my child always struggles to start doing their homework, but once they have started, they're okay. Why could this be? Actually, we're about to talk about that because that is all task
Yeah,
initiation. So,
absolutely. And we'll be talking about kind of how we cope with starting tasks and giving you some strategies like we always do. So I hope that they are helpful for you. I was thinking about like with me with task initiation. When I was back teaching, one of the strategies that one of my managers was called eating the frog.
eating the frog.
Eating the frog, yeah.
Okay.
And it was all about doing that task that you always put off to the last minute because
Right.
either it's a big task where you're not quite sure how to start it, and the longer you leave it, the more anxious you become about it because
Yeah.
you're thinking, oh my goodness, like it's so big, or I just really don't know how to begin it. So she used to, and it was physically bribing us because she used to get the little Freddo chocolates so
Yeah.
that we could physically eat the frog
Oh, so
afterwards. Yeah.
actually, okay, I like that.
So I think I've kind of adapted that. Like I don't get myself a Freddo every time now.
I can get you Freddos if you'd like
Yeah,
to.
well, Nat, you are my manager, so if I could get a Freddo every time I do something like that, that'd be great. Um, but yeah, I don't do that myself now. But I think in my mind, I always try and tackle those bigger tasks
Mm.
first, or the ones that I'm not quite sure how to start, because I don't like leaving them until that last minute because I know I can get anxious about it.
Yeah, and I think this is why this episode is a really good follow on from our last two, actually. So, that planning and prioritizing and that organization, because you think, what actually is task initiation? Well, that's starting that task. And we've actually drip feeded this a lot through our previous episodes. So, I always do the little go back and have a listen to our previous episodes if you haven't. But it really is like, where do I start and what am I actually focusing on to get this task started? Now, for people that don't struggle with this, it's so easy because you just, well, I just do it, I just get on with it.
Mm.
But I think you spoke previously, didn't you, about sort of the tidying the bedroom and
Yes,
actually,
yeah.
where do I go from that? What items do I pick up to put where? And that can cause sort of a lot of anxiety. And I think, again, with this homework question, well, actually, what part do I start on? Is it simply getting my book out? Is it getting my pen? What do I need? And it actually then escalates from there. Getting started on the task can be really difficult. And I think we've also touched on task paralysis, haven't we, as well
Yeah,
previously?
yeah, that just complete, oh my goodness, I don't even know where to begin with it. And I think we've talked about like making lists and things if
Hmm.
you've got a lot of stuff to do, or and I think we might have mentioned like time blocking
Yeah, I think.
before, so you only spend like that little bit of time on something, so you know you can really focus on it, but it's only for a short amount of time.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like actually that's quite a nice idea in terms of work. So something that I've used previously is sort of those little wins. And I think you can do that through all ages. So really, really young ones all the way over up to sort of our young adults. So picking those little wins, I tend to break my to-do list
Mm.
down into those big jobs that I'm a bit scared to get started because in my mind they're
Yeah.
going to take absolute ages. And then in reality, they're really short and don't take that much time. And all the little things. So is it replying to an email? Is it, I don't know, putting a therapy plan together? Is it having a conversation with someone? And I tend to find, if when I've done those little wins, it gives you a little bit of a boost to
Mm.
get started on those bigger tasks because you're in the motion. So again, going back to the older ones, and we will talk more about children, but I think I've had a lot of experience. The last couple of assessments I've done, they've all been a lot older, but having those conversations about, okay, with these big college briefs, or even sort of for you, when like with the person you worked with
Yeah.
that was starting work, trying to get started on just something small is enough that actually can make you follow all the way through. So reading, setting yourself a task of, I don't know, quantifying it. So okay, this big brief or my homework, I'm only going to do two questions or read the first sentence. And actually, from sort of feedback I've had from one family, is once they got it started, they completed it all.
Yeah, they were
Because
fine,
yeah,
fine doing it. I think, and like Matt said, we will go to the younger ones in a minute, but one of the things that I think as a whole team we've discussed before is if you've got like an assessment to do and you're really struggling to know kind of where to start in the middle. Take away that pressure
yeah,
of going, oh my goodness, how on earth am I going to start this introduction to like this science experiment away?
yeah.
Well, go to the main bit
Mhm.
and then you can go back to it.
Don't they say to do that with essays and stuff like
Yeah.
that as well? Like if you're struggling with the introduction, go
Yeah,
to the
just go to,
core.
yeah,
Yeah,
start at the main bit.
yeah.
Or, well, how are you meant to introduce it if you don't know in
Mm.
that moment kind of what you're talking about? So just do the main part of it and go back to it.
And I think with the younger ones, we have used that example of tidying the bedroom. And I think also something that we talk about is like body doubling or just giving those hints, because I think this falls again in line with the whole idea of it's far easier to be destructive than constructive. So it's
Hmm.
far easier to get your toys out and mess things up than put them back together. And again, if there's distraction as part of that, so if we're sort of bringing those individuals in that maybe have ADHD, autism, and there's distraction as part of that, it makes this even harder because I'm trying to do something else or I want to finish something else before I get started on the next
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
I was just going to say, like with the tidying the bedroom, I think I am a prime example of this. So I could go and tidy my bedroom. I was lucky in the fact that I didn't have that
Yeah, okay.
difficulty with it. But I would go and do it, and then I would get distracted because I would find a toy. It was like, oh, this our mum would often come up and find me like, what are you doing? You meant to be
Come
tidying
on,
your
Abby,
bedroom. It's
tidy your
like,
bedroom.
don't please. So yeah, there is that element of
Mm.
distraction as well. I'm trying to get them back on track
Mm.
once they've started.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, timers are a really good
Yeah.
strategy. Like we've mentioned it before, but like just having those short bursts of time going to be really beneficial for people. I think I can't remember what we've honestly,
Do you know, we're 5 episodes in, I think.
it's deep in strategies at the moment. Arbitrary timers, just again doing things for a short amount of time. So like, oh, dinner's cooking. I'm going to do my homework whilst dinner's cooking.
Mhm.
That's all the time that you have that you're going to focus on it
Isn't that
then.
habit stacking?
Yeah, so habit stacking is really good. So it's
Yeah.
inserting something that you want to make new.
Mm.
So say it's like taking a vitamin. You
Yeah.
know, you in your morning routine, you get dressed and you brush your teeth, say, but you want to take a vitamin. It's no good putting that, I'm going to take the vitamin at the end
Right.
because that's going to fall off because that's the new thing. You insert it within the habit that you've already created. So you would get dressed, take your vitamin, brush your teeth. So
Mm.
it's already within that established routine. It's much easier to build up from there
Do you
than
know, I
just,
adapted that the other
yeah,
day in an assessment. I changed habit stacking
yeah,
into how to remember stuff.
yeah.
So I think we were having a conversation about how do I remember stuff better. I said, well, do an element of habit stacking.
Mm,
So if every day you brush your teeth and you know you brush your teeth,
mm,
put your reminders on top of on like the bathroom mirror, or
yeah,
if you're feeding a dog and you feed a dog every day and
yeah,
you got to remember you got to be at an appointment at 2 o'clock, put
yeah.
a reminder on the dog food. I adapted.
It's within that routine,
Yeah.
yeah. Not task initiation at all, but it's a very good tip.
It
I
is
love
very
Yeah.
good.
I might start using that at home.
So I think something we also wanted to talk about in this sort of task initiation is sort of the ADHD productive shame cycle, we kind
Yeah.
of call it as well. Because I think as part of sort of task initiation, it is kind of finding that motivation. I think again, I've had a lot more conversations recently about how do I become motivated, and if I'm starting something, how do I become motivated to get it started? So am I starting coursework or am I starting tidying the house or cooking? So actually, how do I motivate myself to do that? So I think this is quite a relevant thing. Basically, the cycle, if you think of a circle, it sort of starts off with feeling motivated. So you begin to make plans and schedules and things like that, making a start. So it then goes on to a little arrow going on to making a start. So you attempt to complete the task and get things done. It then moves on to the struggle begins. So you find it hard to focus and stay on the task. Probably in there becomes an element of distraction as well. So you've seen things. Abby's picked up her ponies in her bedroom. You're then feeling like a failure. So these struggles can then make completing the task quite hard because you keep getting distracted in the task. So you're starting to feel like you can't actually complete this activity.
Or even get going on it because of that distraction.
And then you'll start seeking immediate gratification. So you look for things that make you feel better. So you're actually looking for the things that make you feel better. So an example of this might be as if you do, let's go back to the tidying the bedroom. Actually, for a child, tidying their bedroom doesn't give them gratification because for them it doesn't matter.
Because who wants to tidy their bedroom?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they will then seek out that distraction, and actually playing is giving them that immediate gratification. Then time's up, you've run out of time to complete the task, and then you feel like a failure. You get sort of wound up, you might sort of try and find something else, you might have an emotional outburst because you've not been able to do it. I feel like with ADHD as well, they become a little bit more in on themselves, so they get frustrated at themselves and their abilities. And then what happens is it all starts again. So then you come round to do it again, you feel motivated, you make a start, you struggle to begin, you feel a failure, you seek immediate gratification, and time's up. I think in terms of this, the main thing is going to be what breaks this cycle. So how do you stop this cycle? Before you start, setting realistic and achievable expectations for yourself. Plan some breaks in, break down the task, adjust your workspace. I find actually listening to music is really helpful. So can you break the task into, I'm going to do some coursework for the length of this song. I'm going to do something for the length of the kettle boiling. I'm going to, for children, giving them a number of toys that they need to pick up, that sort of thing.
I think you often find that at like preschools and nurseries and things like that. There's often like a tidy up song, isn't there? So there's only a limited amount of time for them all to all kind of tidy up. It's like, oh, who can pick up the most toys? So you're turning it into that game element, so it doesn't feel like such a big task for them to approach.
And I think we've also recommended before, because I think this is something you can talk a little bit about with sort of transitions as well, because I feel like that's an element of task initiation, because usually you see this more within autism, those transitional difficulties, but I feel like that's because they want to finish and complete the activity, but also then starting the activity is quite hard. So I feel like that can be an element of that. So actually we sometimes, especially for your younger ones, recommend music, don't we? Because actually you've got until the end of the song and you might have music for brushing your teeth or something like that. And it just kind of gives a bit more, it goes into that motivation thing, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
They say then also, we say,
us, the professionals here.
give yourself regular breaks. So movement breaks, we often recommend sort of movement breaks, thinking that sensory side of things. Check in with yourself to see how you're doing, have a plan ready for what you want to do when you're struggling, recognize shameful thoughts and replace them with sort of compassionate ones. So at least I've started, I've done those mini wins, or at least I've got part of this done.
That can be really hard for someone to do within themselves. So
100%.
modelling that to your child, particularly like the younger ones who aren't going to be able to recognise that their thoughts are necessarily negative themselves, go, well, you've done a good job, you've started it, that's a really good go, we'll have a break and then we'll come back to it again. I think that's really important for us as adults to model that.
And I think it's my script at the moment because I learn new bits of information. I want to let everyone know about them. But I was actually listening to a podcast the other day and she was talking about negative thoughts. And apparently a negative thought only lasts 90 seconds. Now, I don't know if I've said this before. I may have said this before. I've lost track. But a negative thought will only last 90 seconds. It's how we reinforce that thought that makes it longer and prolonged. So if you can kind of be compassionate with yourself, and if you have those negative thoughts of I'm so stupid, I can't do this, I keep getting distracted, and sort of just trying to sort of encourage yourself and go, okay, I have got distracted, but I started, I can do this, you're more likely to sort of, I feel like you don't want to distract yourself, but you're more likely to sort of start feeling a little bit better about what you're doing, because I feel like sometimes allowing yourself to sit in those thoughts and just change them is more beneficial than, say, distracting them.
Yeah, and I mean, we've spoken about it with, we've previously spoken about like, the arc of the meltdown and then doing that co-regulation. It's almost that coaching
Yeah.
element of that for this turning those negative thoughts into positive thoughts.
Then
Yeah,
yeah.
and letting them fly away.
Then it just says sort of after, give yourself time to recover before starting the next task. So actually giving yourself some downtime,
Mhm.
making sure you're doing something afterwards. So if you have set yourself a challenge to do read half of your brief or start some homework, or again for the younger ones quantifying it for him, we're going to do 5 pages then stop, or 3 questions then stop, allowing that time to recover afterwards before starting the next thing. But I think making sure you outline in the plan that you're doing, because you don't want them to then stop and they get involved in something
Yeah.
else and then you're like, right, we're doing it again, they're like, no,
I don't want to. Yeah. And I think like with like going back to the question with the homework element
mm,
of it, trying to make it part of the routine, and you'll know your children best.
mm,
So whether it's they come home from school, and let's face it, all kids are exhausted after school, they've
yeah,
been working hard all day, whether that's they need 10 minutes to have a snack, maybe watch one of their programs, and then they can go on to do their homework, or whether it's better that they come home, do some form of sensory activity. So, go on the trampoline, or, run around the garden 5 times, or whatever it is, have a
mm,
snack, and then sit down to do the homework, or whether it's just best to get on straight with it. I think as
yeah,
long as it's part of that routine element for you, it becomes more natural
mhm.
in that kind of, okay, so I know what I'm expected to do at this point, and it doesn't come as a what? You're asking me to do what now?
Yeah, and I think that's a really important thing to say as well, is like making sure there's a sensory regulation in
Mm,
that, because I know sort of some difficulties that the younger ones do have when they get home from school. They immediately want to go on like screens and
mhm,
decompress, because actually, have they been masking during the day? Have they had enough sort of sensory regulation
mm,
during the day? Has it just been a big day and it's tiring for them? I know as adults we have sort of days at work that it's a little bit harder than other days and stuff like that. So I think actually, like you said, making sure they've done that sensory regulation
mhm.
side of things before you get them started into the
Yeah,
next task.
absolutely. And I think something that's really good to have at the end of a task as well. So going back to kind of like this shame cycle, is giving yourself these little rewards at
Yeah.
the end. So I know like with the older ones, we've gone maybe like with revision, say for
Hmm.
GCSEs, you're gonna revise for 25 minutes or whatever it is, and then you're gonna reward yourself with, well, it can be whatever, it could be a little chocolate bar if you've revised in the afternoon, or it could be I'm gonna reward myself by reading my book for 10 minutes, or
Yeah.
whatever it is, something that you know that you enjoy, so that when you've had that allotted time for
Hmm.
doing what you want, you know that you have that reward at the end.
Yeah. I like that. I like
Yeah.
that a lot.
And I mean, going back to ADHD, we talk about the nervous system
Hmm.
in ADHD. And if you do not have any neurodivergence within you, you tend to have an importance based nervous system. So, this is where those are the jobs that you know you need to do. No
Do,
one wants to do them,
but
like
you know
taking the
you.
bins
Yeah.
out, doing the washing, tidying the bedroom, those sorts of things. You know that actually they are important as an individual to get done to function on a daily basis. Whereas with ADHD in particular, you are going to have the interest based nervous system, because you're going to want that dopamine hit for things that you enjoy doing. So all of those little tasks that you think, well, why haven't you picked up your socks, or why haven't you done your homework? They're not almost on that radar, because they're not going to give them that dopamine feedback that they're craving. So like with the rewards, if we can, and the rewards can be anything, it doesn't have to be food based, but I'm a food based person, so mine would be food. But okay, we're going to do this, and then you can have your little treat at the end of it,
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Yeah. I like that. I like that a
Mm.
lot.
I'm just trying to think what else we can recommend. I think we've thrown a load of strategies at everyone this week and gone off topic. But did we mention the Forest app?
I don't think we have, no.
No, so the Forest app is a really nice one for those who are probably starting secondary school, and they've got their phone, and it can be a distraction,
Mm.
which links into that task initiation. They never get going because they're always on their phone, they're talking to their friends, or they're doing some form of gaming activity. You can download the Forest app,
Right.
and what it does is it kind of takes over their phone.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
I know the one you mean. Yeah.
And it grows a tree. So it takes a certain amount of time to grow a tree, and within that time, they can't access kind of like that social media or the games or anything like that. So they can only focus on kind of the task in hand.
Isn't the aim to grow the
Of
aim's to grow a forest,
Yeah,
and what it does, isn't it, is it puts a timer on.
yeah,
The aim is to focus for that period of
yeah,
time, but it
yeah.
also encourages you to put breaks in there as well, which I think is really
Mm,
good for this sort of
yeah.
task initiation, productivity side of
Yeah, to kind
things.
of know that there's a break and an
Yeah.
end in sight.
And then what it does, doesn't it, it kind of stops you accessing other stuff, but you can still sort of receive calls and stuff like that. But it
Yeah,
puts like warnings out saying, "Oh, your tree's going to die if you don't
yeah,
go back on this
yeah,
app," sort of thing.
absolutely.
And that's meant to kind of give you, like you're saying, that bit of dopamine, those rewards, because you're
Mm.
trying to build that forest, you're trying to sort of do it. And they do, I can't think of the name of it, but they do one for younger children where you are still same concept, but actually you're trying to get coins to, you have a rabbit basically,
Yeah.
and you're trying to get coins to buy stuff for the rabbit based on the times you set. If you complete it, you actually then get the coins for the rabbit,
Ah,
but I can't remember what it's
right,
called.
we'll
I'll
research that. We'll come back to you on that
I'll
one.
put it in the comments or something like
Yeah.
that. But yeah, so actually, I think that's probably it for us. We sort of, next week we've got working memory, haven't we? So we're going to go into that. So that's that ability to sort of hold items in your mind,
And manipulate it in some sense of the word. So like maths would be a really good example.
Yeah, I think that's the easiest way to look at
Yeah.
it, isn't it? Like having a maths problem, holding it in your mind, and then being able to manipulate that to then come out with the information. Spelling's another one, so
Yeah.
remembering the letters and then trying to put them in the correct order.
Yeah.
So we're going to go a bit more into that next time, aren't we? Because actually, in terms of how that affects our ability to do tasks and stuff like that, is quite an important one. So, yeah, as always, sort of, if you haven't yet, go back and listen to our previous podcast, because we're getting them out weekly now, aren't we? Every Friday.
Yeah, we are.
We
And they
probably
do kind of interlink as well, don't they?
probably should have said that from the start, that they're coming out every Friday.
They're weekly episodes, everyone.
But yeah, I think that's probably a nice place to wrap it all up.
So please do leave us any more comments. We really do love reading them. Please do share this with everyone.
Yeah.
And if you've got any questions or anything, you can send us an email on thesensationallife@bibic.org.uk, or you can find us on social, so on Facebook and Instagram. Just type in Bibic and we should
Pop up.
Yeah.
We're also trying to make sure we've got sort of teasers out for the next episode as well, so you can see what's coming. And do stick with us, because me and Abby have been in some great conversations with people, haven't we? And we've got some great guests sort of lined up, so that's going to be exciting. I know we've got someone potentially talking about trauma, talking about EHCPs. We've got an event coming up in April, Paws on the Parrot. So we've got sort of someone from the RSPCA talking about sort of welfare and dogs and the impact that they can have on sort of send children and stuff like that. So that would be really exciting. So do stick with us, because we've got some fun stuff coming. But yeah, we've only got a couple of episodes left of this series. Yeah.
So we'll see you next week.
So
as always,
keep it sensational.